We're back, and we left off with Tony Romo talking about solid quarterbacks. He's had a solid year so far, really kind of disciplined himself in the interception department, and of course, sure enough, kind of led them to their first place. At least good start, 6-1. However, they've lost the last 2 games. Romo was a bit banged up against Washington, out for last week's games or Sunday's game against Arizona. They lost that one too. At 6-3, how much pressure are the Cowboys in? How much pressure is Romo in, I should say, to get back into the lineup to avoid another losing streak and perhaps an 8-8 season? Because we've seen this second half collapse before from the Cowboys. Great starts, tail off towards the end.
There's pressure for him to come back, but if he comes back too early and then gets injured more seriously, he's out for the season. So if you go 6-4, the season isn't over. Pressure's on a little bit for him to come back, but I think sit him for a week and wait till he's healthy.
You know, they lost to a very good Cardinals team. Don't kid yourself. Cardinals are a team that doesn't get a lot of hype where they're at, but they're a very good football club, and no shame to lose against them. Now, does he get back in the lineup when they go to London? Likely not, because of everything that happens travel-wise and his back. It's probably does very good for him to stay back home, recover, and then get ready. And yeah, I don't think they'll lose in London. Yeah, I think they're a lot better club than that. And hopefully he'll be back before you know it, because they really do need him.
But should he play, knowing how much pressure they're in and how much Brandon Whedon played as a backup? Didn't do well. It's kind of put the panic button a little bit, or should they push the panic button in this case?
No, I don't think he should play yet. When you're dealing with a back injury, and a fairly serious back injury, and he's had back problems in the past, I think he's best served sitting out another week.
Yeah, he comes out too quick and re-injures it, like Vince said, and then he's out for even longer, and that's going to be devastating for the Cowboys. So rest another week, and then come back in 2 weeks' time.
Are you guys familiar with names like George Peros? Perhaps Hal Gill. You could throw in John Scott, most recently, who was suspended for coming off the bench for the San Jose Sharks. These are names of guys who are enforcers, guys who would police what's going on in the NHL. However, we've seen a shift over the last, say, 5-10 years of really moving away from this. We've seen less fights, and you've seen the decrease percentage-wise year by year. Only 1 fight in the playoffs last year, and I believe that involved Brendan Proust. So if you look at the role of the enforcer, are they going to go by the wayside, much like the dinosaurs, and become extinct?
I think a little bit, especially in the salary cap era, where you have to save your dollars a little bit. You need somebody who can play some valuable minutes. If you look at the enforcers that are left in the league right now, and their plus-minus column, most of them are in the minus category because they're a detriment to their team when they're on the ice. So I don't know if they're necessary anymore.
You need more than one-dimensional players in the game now. You need players that can play different roles. You don't need a player that is going to hurt you on 5-on-5 situations. You need a player that can go on the ice, play his own, go up and down the wing, take draws, and play back end possibly. But you need more than a one-dimensional player in any level of hockey. And you look at it, and it's just not the National Hockey League that's getting rid of the enforcers. You look at the AJHL, you look at the WHL. Back in the day, way back in the day, each team would have 3 or 4 tough guys. Like Lloyd had tough guys. Kent Staniforth is one. You look at Fraser Flippick was another one, and they had each team had their share of tough guys. Now you look at the Bobcats, and you look at the AJHL. Who's the tough guy on this team? There is none, and it's happening at all levels. So it starts from the junior level right up to the NHL, where the enforcer role of guys that were just out there to fight is very limited now.
During the Paris Masters last week, Milos Raonic defeated Roger Federer in a big match. If you look at the significance of that win, it's the first time Raonic has ever beaten Federer. Is that something that he should hold his head upon, or is this maybe a change of the guard? How significant is the win for Milos?
Well, I think in men's tennis, about every 8 or 9 years, somebody else comes in as the number one, and the players lose their edge a bit. They get a little slower. If you think back, Boris Becker, Yvonne Lendl, Bjorn Borg, yeah. And they all have their 5, 6, 7 years of glory, and then age takes over. Pete Sampras,
Jimmy Connors.
And it's been Federer for 10 years or so, right? So I think his time's coming to an end, and you start to lose to players who are in that top 10, and then eventually the guard changes a bit.
So it's a good win for Milan, but don't get me wrong. But at the same time, he has to follow it up with something. So you beat Roger this time. Now you have to follow it up and show that you deserve to be ranked where you are. Start winning some tournaments, be more consistent, and start beating other top-ranked players. When if he does that, then yeah, he's going to be one of the best players in the game.
Moving on to the LA Lakers, they started the season 0-4 for the first time since 1957-58. That's a very long time, more than half a century, guys. If you look at where the team is, you look at the roster with Kobe Bryant right now in his final year, making $25 million. Are the Lakers done as a contender for playoffs, world championships for this foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think so. Kobe's not the Kobe of his young days. He's a veteran player that's still good on a given night, but he can't put the minutes in like he used to. And they don't really have, you don't really, like some teams have these stars that are coming up. With the Lakers, you really don't see that. So you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel saying that, you know, down a few years from now, they'll be a contender again. It could be some time.
Yeah, they might want to look at moving Kobe. I know that's hard to do when he's been there forever, but you look at moving a guy like that to a team who's a contender so you can start, whether it's draft picks or young players, start rebuilding, because it seems like it's coming to an end with him as the leader there.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we return, we have Over Under coming up next.